Also present today is Councillor Mars. I have apologies from Councillor McAdams, and Councillor Nugent is also present today. We have a number of officers present, and with that I'll pass back to yourself, Chair, to commence today's business. Thank you.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. If I could ask if there are any declarations of interests.
I'm not seeing any hands, Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. If I could move on to item 2, which is the minutes of the previous meeting, pages 3 to 10 of your pack. Could we agree those minutes as a true and accurate record?
Agreed, Chair. Agreed.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Moving on to item 3A, which is the Capital Budget Monitoring 2024-25 General Fund Capital Programme, pages 11 to 30 of your pack. Could I ask Lorraine to speak to this report?
Thank you, Chair, and good afternoon, members. So agenda item 3A then is the Capital Programme Monitoring for the current financial year for the General Fund Programme. So in section 4 of your report on page 11, we note the capital programme of 86.956 million, and that's detailed in Appendix B of your papers there. The revised programme includes adjustments to the programme itself, which are a net increase of 1.708 million, and I'll pick up on those when we go through the appendices. And that the appendices also show that we have funding to support the programme of 86.956. In terms of the forecast spend for the year, at the moment we are being advised that we will achieve full spend, but we'll obviously continue to monitor that as we go through the coming months and identify any slippage or acceleration or movement in the programme to members where appropriate. In terms of actual spend, in section 4.4 we've spent 7.442 million and we've received funding of 47.585 million. In terms of the appendices then, Appendix A on page 13 details the exceptions that were approved by the Executive Committee last week, I think. We've got the Road Safety Improvement Fund programme there. That's additional money from the Scottish Government to deliver safe system measures to support casualty and or risk reduction to our roads. And there are a number of roads noted there for your information. The second tranche of funding is the Roads, People and Place Local Authority Direct Award, and that funding has been made available to support active travel and sustainable travel. And again, you can see the projects there listed totalling £261,000. That money is coming to the Council from Transport Scotland, and again, that's been added to the programme. The final exception is over the page, on page 14, and that's the Hare Myers Park and Ride project. And we did touch on this last time because we had gone to Executive Committee back in June. We have had the tender submission back, and the project requires an additional amount of money to be allocated. The Roads Department have been working with colleagues in Transport Scotland and SPT in terms of trying to get further funding to augment the programme, and they've been successful in getting an additional £500,000 from Transport Scotland. We had originally advised the forum last time round that we had an amount of money that we possibly had to borrow up front to facilitate the spend, and Transport Scotland would give us it in future years. However, they've now agreed to give us £500,000 more, and we should get the money this financial year, so that's a good news story. And the second tranche of funding is from SPT. They've noted their commitment to the project, and they're noting a further commitment of up to £450,000, sorry, and that's in addition to other monies that are already allocated to the project. They've noted their commitment. They haven't allocated monies into the next financial year yet, but we have a contingency plan in place which would be to look at the roads budget into next financial year if we have to underwrite that money. At the moment, we're looking to add the £950,000 to the programme this year, and once we get through the preliminary stages of the discussions with the contractor, we'll look to see whether or not we will spend all that money this year or whether it might fall into the next financial year. But we'll come back to the forum with that if that's relevant. Appendix B just details the position then, shows you how we've moved from last period to this period in terms of the proposed adjustments. And Appendix C gives you the detail across the individual service areas. Appendix D then on page 17 shows you the funding package as we now see it, totalling the 86.956 for the programme as a whole. And that's the financial elements of that report, Chair. If I can hand over to Derek.
Thanks, Lorraine. Chair, if I could take members to page 18, firstly on the build executive summary. I'm pleased to report there's no projects noted as behind programme at this period. And over the page onto page 20 is the non-build executive summary. And also in that, there are no projects that are reporting behind programme at this stage. Moving on to page 22, the roads executive summary also for this period notes that there are no projects reporting behind programme. And that's the report, the operational report for this.
Thank you, Lorraine and Derek. Are there any questions or comments on this report?
I'm not seeing any hands, Chair.
Thank you. Could we agree the report, please?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Moving on to capital budget monitoring 24-25, the housing capital programme, pages 31 to 36 of your pack, item 3B. Thank you, Lorraine.
Thank you. So item 3B then notes the housing programme for the current year again, and the programme is noted in section 4.1 at 77.248 million, and that reflects changes to the original programme for the year that were approved back in June. We've got programme funding for the year also totalling the 77.248, and the details of this are in Appendix A, which we'll come to in a second. The 2024-25 forecast at the moment is sitting at the 77.248, and as at the 12th of July, we had 11.647 billion of funding actually received. If I can take you to the appendices then, Appendix A shows the budget for the year of 77,248. It shows the various funding streams that we have in place, again totalling that overall budget, so we have a balanced position. And in terms of the actual spend to the 12th of July, we have spent 11.647, and we've got funding to match that at that point in time. And again, that's all for the financial element. Thank you.
Thank you, Lorraine.
Thanks, Chair. If I could take members to page 34, the executive summary for the housing capital programme. This period we're reporting that there are 3 projects behind programme, and over the page on page 35, they are listed there. We've had a couple of projects, one at Donaldson Street, Hamilton, environmental upgrade, and an environmental upgrade at Camnethan Street in Stonehouse, both affected by, with our community resources colleagues, getting orders raised to subcontractors, but that has now been resolved, and these projects will start soon. The last one is Kirkriggs Gardens sheltered housing landscaping works, and this is behind due to resources being laid on site to carry out tar path, and that needs to be redone. So that's all the report for the housing capital programme for this period, Chair.
Thank you, Lorraine and Derek. Are there any questions or comments on this report?
I'm not seeing any hands, Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. Could we agree the report, please?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Moving on to item 4, which is the revenue budget monitoring 24-25, pages 37 to 42 of your pack. Back to Lorraine. Thank you.
Thanks, Chair. So the revenue budget monitoring report then substantively starts in section 4 of your papers. And we note then, as at the 12th of July, the projected outturn position for the Council and the General Fund budget is a break-even position, and the details of that are in Appendix 1, which we'll touch on in a second. In terms of some key budget areas that we have been trailing through the year so far, the sections 4.3 onwards gives a bit of an update on that. So the first one is the teacher numbers, and you'll be aware of the fact that we have had a holdback of 9.379 million in our government grant for the current year, and that's dependent on the number of teachers that we have in place. Section 4.4 notes the Government have responded to communication from council officers who have been continuing to reiterate that any mitigations would need to be considered, and the Government have agreed that they will do that on a case-by-case basis, but they can't do that, or are not in a position to do that until after the census is published, and that won't be until December time. Officers have continued to work with Scottish Government on that, and we will provide them with our own view on the teacher number position as we go forward, in an effort to try and ensure that we get our full amount of money back in terms of the holdback. Section 4.6 looks at the employer's pension contribution, and again that's just noting, as I say, we've trailed this before, that there was an increase in teachers' pensions from 23 to 26%. That came into place on the 1st of April. We haven't been notified of any funding to support this yet. However, the Scottish Government do expect to receive funding for this from the UK Government and have committed to passing that on to councils. And the final point to note there in terms of the general fund side is the loans fund review. It's quite a big part of our budget, as you know, and it's one of the cross-cutting reviews to look at the loans fund and its position in the current year, and that's in relation to loan charges and also service concession arrangements. And we're just noting there that any impact on the current year outturn will be reported later in the year. Section 5 of the report then notes the housing revenue account position, and again, in the interest of presenting a forecast position, we're forecasting a break-even at this point in the year. If I can take you over to page 40 of your papers, which is Appendix 1, you can see the detail across the individual services of the council. In the greyed out section there, you're seeing that there's no projected outturn at this point in the year. And what in effect we're doing is a mini outturn every accounting period. We will do a full formal probable outturn as well, just as we normally do, which is a deeper dive, but we're trying to do an outturn every period on particular budget lines, and that's informing our monitoring as we go forward. The column on the right hand side is showing you our actual spend to date, which is showing at that point a net surplus position of 39 million, but that is a timing issue only. That is only because some of our income's coming in at a different time to our spend's going out. So that's just for information at the moment. Page 41 is the housing revenue account, and again in the greyed out section we're showing no variances or no forecast variances at this point in the year, and the right hand column again shows your actual position. And as you know, the housing revenue account is balanced by any transfers to or from reserves, and we're coming in online there at the bottom. And that's all for that report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Lorraine. Are there any questions or comments on this report?
I'm not seeing any hands, Chair.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. Can we agree this report, please?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Moving on to item 5, which is the Revenue Budget Monitoring 24-25, the detailed resource analysis, pages 43 to 84 of the pack, please. Graham.
Thank you, Chair. Again, agenda item 5 gives the revenue budget for 24-25 and just the detailed resource analysis with information provided on each of the resources and the housing revenue account. So appendices A to F, we have a brief description in terms of a summary showing the top level position, the details of the most significant variances across the subjective headings and services, and also the line-by-line trend analysis of the resource spend and income. So again, just kind of summary, go through that, and kind of happy to take any questions at the end on any specific areas. In terms of the community and enterprise resources position, it's outlined in page 45 onwards, and page 45, as Lorraine alluded to in the previous report, is just showing the service split. As I say, on the left-hand side, then in the greyed out, the budget and outturn showing bottom line, break-even position, and on the right-hand side is the spend to date of 27.6 million. And as I say, the specific explanations are then detailed thereafter, and those that are new from previous period are underlined for reference. On page 55 is the next one, is education. Again, just obviously showing the one line there, but again showing a break-even position projected for the year, and the spend to date at the right-hand side of just shy of 122 million. and for education there's no new variances underlined from last period. So whilst the out, as Lorraine spoke to, we're updating the outturns every period, there's no specific new lines coming through than we had before. If we move on to finance and corporate resources on page 61, again, break-even position, bottom line, and showing break-even across the services as well, with the year-to-date spend of just shy of £16 million. And again, we do have a couple of new variances there underlined within the next areas, looking at the specifics of the variances. And last few then, housing and technical resources on page 67. Again, just showing break-even bottom line, but a couple of variances within the two services there, and the spend to date of £13.5 million. And again, also we do have one line underlined there, just in terms of the new variance from last time in relation to our employee costs. For the housing revenue account, as Lorraine already spoke about in the previous report, there's no variances at this point in time, but as I say, that will be reviewed as we go through the year and continue to revise the outturn. So that's just a note on page 73. And the last of the resources then, social work, on page 77. Again, showing break-even bottom line for the resource, and the split across the services there, showing just in terms of some overspends and underspends, but overall coming back, and the spend to date of just over £60 million. So again, as I say, happy to take any specific questions on any of the detail within that, Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Graham. Are there any questions or comments on this report?
Hi, Chair. I'm not seeing any hands for this item.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. Can we agree this report, please?
Hi, Chair. I'm not seeing a seconder at the moment.
Could we give members just one more moment in case of technical issues? If I could seek agreement for that report, please.
Hi, Councillor Mars. We appear to lose all of the remote participants, so we're just trying to get them back online.
Thank you, Elizabeth Ann. Once we've given that a few minutes, if we could run through a new sediment, please.
Of course, of course. Hi, Chair. I think we have councillors rejoined, so if you would like me to take another sederin, I can do that now.
Yes. Yes, thank you. Feel to do that.
Thank you, Chair. So apologies all for the technical issues. I'm just going to take another sederant. I can, Councillor Buchanan, I can see that you have rejoined, as has Councillor Dewar. We had apologies from Councillor Ferguson. Councillor Gowland has rejoined, as has Councillor Keat. We had apologies from Councillor Lockhart, and Councillor Mars is present. We had apologies from Councillor McAdams, and Councillor Nugent has rejoined. So I'll hand back to yourself, Chair, to find a seconder. Thank you.
Thank you. So moving back to item 5, which is the Revenue Budget Monitoring 24-25, the Detailed Resource Analysis Plan, pages 43 to 84 of your pack. Graham's already spoken to that. Could I ask for agreement on the report, please?
Agreed, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Dewar. Moving on to item 6. Moving on to item 6, I have no urgent business, and so thank you for your attendance and forbearance with technical difficulties, and have a nice day. Thank you.